Labor. Labor actually means any type of physical or mental exertion. In economic terms, labor is the effort exerted to produce any goods or services. It includes all type of human efforts, physical exertion, mental exertion, use of intellectual, etc., done in exchange for economic rewards. So, labor is a source. According to Marshall, he represents service provided for the factors of labor which helps in yielding an income to the owner of the labor power. The next topic is labor. Labor is a human input. Okay, labor is the active factors of production. So labor means manual labor or unskilled labor. But in economics, the term labor has a wider meaning. So it means any work undertaken for securing an income or reward. Such work may be manual or intellectual. For example, the work done by an agricultural worker or a cook or a rickshaw puller or a mason is called to be labor in economics. Okay, the work of a doctor or a teacher or an engineer is intellectual. In short, labor in economics refers to any type of work performed by labor for earning income. So labor constitutes one of the important factors of production. The factor involves human services and efforts for the production of goods and services. Labor is commonly thought of a group of unskilled labor working in factories. However, in economic terms, a work, physical or mental, carried out for monetary purpose is called to be labor. A work that is undertaken by an individual for the sake of interest or a pleasure, then the individual will not be regarded as labor in economics. According to Marshall, any exertion of mind or body undergoes partly or wholly with a view to some goods other than the pleasure derived directly from the work is called to be labor. Among all factors of production, labor is the only factor that is living. The peculiarity of labor differentiates it from the rest of the factors of production. Let's learn the characteristics of labor. Labor is animate factors of production. Labor is an active factors of production. The statement is true because labor is an active factors of production. It is a factor that starts production. Land and capital alone cannot start production, so they are passive factor. They need the active factors of production, that is labor, to be productive themselves. Labor implies several types of manual or intellectual, like teachers, lawyers, etc. So labor is perishable. Labor is perishable in nature. This simply means that it has to storage capacity. Labor cannot be stored. If a worker does not turn up to a work for one shift, his labor or that shift is lost completely. It cannot be stored and utilized the next day. The labor is lost permanently. A laborer cannot store his labor to use at another time. So we say labor as a factor of production is highly perishable. Labor is inseparable from the laborer. This means The physical presence of the laborer is compulsory. To sell his service, the laborer has to be physically present at the place of production of goods and services. We cannot separate him from his labor power. We cannot expect a welder to do his work from home. He has to be present at the site for the work. Alright. So labor is less mobile between the mm, place and occupation. So labor as a factor of production is mobile. The laborer cannot relocate to the site of work, but there are many barriers for the movement to the labor from one place to another. So we cannot say labor is not as mobile as some other factors of production like capital. Labor is means as well as an end. It is both the cause of production and consumer to the product. Labor units are heterogeneous. Labor differs in ability. Yes, labor differs in ability. Mm, we cannot expect labor to be uniform. Every labor is unique, and so his labor power will also be different from another. The quality and the efficiency of the labor will depend on the skill, work environment, incentives, and other inherent qualities of the laborer. Labor supply determines its reward. Supply of labor is relatively inelastic. At any point in time, the supply of labor in the market is inelastic. It cannot be increased instantly to keep it up according to the demand. So, there is a shortage of skilled labor in India. Skilled labor can be generated in a day, a week, or a year. So, labor supply, whoever works as a labor determines the reward for the work as wages. Labor has a less weak bargaining power. Labor as a factor of production has a very weak bargaining power with the buyer of the service. It cannot be stored. It is very mobile and has no standard or reserve price. So generally labor are forced to work, and whatever wages the employers offers. In comparison to the employer, the labor have to very little bargaining power. So this is always a problem that labor do not have to work other than any reserves to fall back on. So it is basically usually poor and ignorant, and the labor work is their only source of income. So they accept whatever wages the employers offer. So these are the characteristics of labor. Thank you.